All right, well, here we are. I'm Zach Reeder, fifth quarter college football, here with Chris from Husker Hype. We are here post game after a very disappointing opening for the Huskers. 30-22 is the final. Illinois in a close one, kind of taken off. It looked like it could be a blowout for a little bit. Huskers kind of come back, not really make it very interesting. Couldn't even get to the 50-yard line. But your initial thoughts, Chris?
Uh, yeah, complete letdown and I mean, there's just so many errors that we saw carry over from last year. With between the special teams, the fumble before half, and just Martinez's lack of ability to hit wide open receiver. That was just a big letdown overall, and just really, really embarrassing that they couldn't find a way against Illinois' backup quarterback and whatnot. And so, yeah, it's definitely a letdown, and it's tough to see Nebraska making it to 6 wins at this point. I don't know how you feel with that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how you saw him revert to so many of those things, even though the offense was kind of a complete different, like scheme wise. I thought a lot more downhill running, and I thought maybe they're going to work play action off that. It was going to get Martinez on the run a little bit more loose. And I think you didn't see that at all, which I thought was extremely concerning that they couldn't run the ball, and how Frost in the post game said something about they were confused at how Illinois was going to defend the run. They couldn't make adjustments. Like, that seems like bad coaching to me. Good coaches make an adjustment. Like, if Nick Saban goes into a game and he's confused by how they're defending the run, he's going to make a change. And it's concerning to hear that from the head coach that they couldn't make a change on that. And then how the defense just constantly kept getting put on the field, and it seemed like they got worn out pretty fast there as the game went on. And then, the thing we've been harping on Frost the whole time, the lack of special teams play was embarrassing compared to Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that with the adjustments. But every team holds things back, right? And they get surprises thrown at them. So, it can't just be a situation where it's like, oh, well, we see this, and now we're just kind of screwed in that aspect of our game. So it was that was extremely frustrating that the run game couldn't produce anything. And then, we're down to the wire, and we've talked, tirelessly about how good Stepp and Irvin and Morrison can be. And then we have back-to-back handoffs up the middle to Ramir Johnson. Where did that come from? Luckily they were able to score that touchdown, and make it a one-score game, but the run game was very puzzling. And then, just the special teams. That was just what an abysmal effort all around. Those punts. Man, the second punt was 13 yards. Might as well have just gone for it. And obviously the mistake with Cam Taylor, just the special teams in general was severely lacking.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I think the biggest thing to point out is that it was every single aspect. You saw the punt return screw up in the game. The punts were terrible. You saw the kickoff return just run straight into people, not gain any yards upfield, not try to make any moves. And then you saw the kickoff team really, compared to the Illinois kicker, lack of, he was going through the end zone. Nebraska couldn't even get it there. And then you saw the extra points. There were so many things that just showed a lack of preparation, especially from a special team standpoint, that was an emphasis for this team because of how bad they've been the last couple of years.
Right. I think that it's just really, really disheartening and tough for a lot of Nebraska fans to continue to invest so much emotion when they just see the same things over and over. Like you said, the special teams missing on all cylinders, and the offense just having really a complete lack of identity. And I kind of wanted to touch on that you had mentioned, kind of Martinez having time in the pocket, and he did have some decent time in the pocket back there, and I just don't know, sitting at home and watching the game, obviously I can't see the routes that are being run that well, but Are guys not open, or is he just not hitting them right away? Because I mean, he's got time back there, and I mean, he's just not making a decision. And also to your point, get him out of the pocket. I think Martinez has got to be a one read, two read, and then you're out. He's if your first or second guy's not there, then man, get out of the pocket and let those legs work. I mean, he can make things happen. I think, like you said, I would have just liked to see him maybe create out of the pocket a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought that was concerning too because, I mean, I felt like for some times in there, he was in there for 5 or 6 seconds. And then all of a sudden we got people getting their hands in there and it's throwing off his throwing and he's not stepping through his throws. You see him just stepping back and lobbing them. And, of course you're going to get that when you're back there for 5 or 6 seconds. Like, it's tough to ask an O-line to hold for 6 seconds each time. All they should be able to do is hold for 3 or 4, and then he should be long gone or that ball's got to be gone. 100%.
Right. There were a few times where an Illinois defender was very, very close to getting a hand on it. And they were kind of lucky a couple of times that they didn't, because that could have been another fumble or another, loss of yardage. But as it was, he's back there for a 3, 4, 5 count, and the ball's not out, and something else has to happen. And then you have that hold on Juergens, and I mean, you can't ask the guy to sit there and and do that for longer than 4 or 5 seconds. So inevitably, if you're going to sit there back there that long, there's probably going to be a holding call, and I think that's kind of what happened on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into reading some of the comments, more about this game, I would like to say, please comment, share as much as you can. Let's get this out of there. Us two are going to be covering you Husker football post-game the entire year. Hopefully it's a lot better than today, because it's tough to sit here and talk about this game. But a couple things before we get going too. As you can see on the bottom, the voice of college football, Mark Rogers, he will have a live call-in show, and that is not supposed to be on Wednesday. That is my mistake. It is actually after the UCLA-Hawaii game ends, roughly around 7 Eastern time. Look for it around there. Turn on your notifications so you get that. And after that, we have an Iowa season preview with our Iowa guys. That one around 8 Eastern time. And it all depends on when that Hawaii-UCLA game, which was a bad game last time I saw, when that game gets done. But just a couple things. Keep commenting. We're going to share some of the comments. We're going to discuss with you what you guys think, what we think. So just keep those flowing in, and we're just going to keep talking Husker football here and some of the problems that they've got. But as you can see on the bottom, I kind of put together some of the stats so some of you could get a visual on what it looked like. I saw someone in the comments actually about 10 minutes before the show, and it made a lot of sense. It said Nebraska wins the box score again. I feel like that's a common thing in the Scott Frost era. Like, they get 100 more yards than their opponent, but it's the turnovers, it's the penalties, it's just all the little things throughout the course of the game that lead to Illinois taking this win, other teams winning these close games against the Huskers.
Yeah, I agree. When somebody told me that we outgained them, I was like, that's just crazy, I'm not sure what the time of possession was. I think we were getting killed there for a while. But, I mean, then at the end of the game, we had our backs against the wall, and we had to do something. And we created. I mean, Oliver Martin played a really good game. I guess that's one of the shining few good things of the game. He had a great game. Why did it take so long to get Austin Allen involved? I'm not sure. It's just tough to see. It's just tough to see them move the ball, and it's just being too late. It's always kind of like that seems.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple other things. You'd love to see the improvement of Martinez. Deciphering those people running down the field, but also so careless with the ball. You said it. They could have had 3 or 4 balls knocked out. I think in the pocket there was only one. But he's just so careless with the ball, and if he could tuck that ball away, and I think that comes down to making that first or second read and then making a decision what you're going to do, not just sitting back there forever. But I did think that the route concepts and everything looked a little bit different. You didn't see as many screens. You saw him looking downfield, which I thought was a good sign at the very beginning of the game. But then it just never seemed like he got in that rhythm of going through his progressions and making that quick decision.
Yeah, I did like the route, and it was there was some over the middle stuff. There was some rub routes. There was some misdirection, and there was at least a little creativity in that aspect. Um, but then it just came down to missing a couple guys. The Lewer one in the end zone. I don't know. Maybe if he gets his body turned around and gets a little bit more of a vertical jump on that, he might be able to get it. It wasn't a terrible ball, but it just could have been. It could have been touched a little bit better in there. And then the one to Hickman. I mean, that was just. I don't know how you miss a guy that open. It's just so hard for me to watch something like that. Uh, and then the fumble before halftime. That just gifted them, and I mean they won by a touchdown. You can't gift someone points like that, and that was just incredibly deflating when you thought Nebraska was probably going to maybe go into halftime. 9 to what was it? Because they had a field goal.
It was 9-9 before that fumble.
Yeah, but even before that, it was 9-2, and it was. And then it was tied, and then all of a sudden we're down by a touchdown. And it's halftime, and
it all started with that interception, and then there was the roughing the passer, and it gave them life in that drive. And then all of a sudden they were able to punch it in, but we had a pick, and we were going to have the ball on the 50-yard line in a 9-2 game.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that too. That's the one. There's always something like that, and I thought like I've talked about this, where there's always one play where it just kind of turns and the air comes out and then the wheels fall off. And that was the play, because I mean we were rolling, and Cam was probably going to maybe even move that ball a little bit, but that was just tough. And we just the penalty, and then the taunting you tack on, and that was 30 yards. And then after that, I saw a stat like after that interception, we were, I think, a 28-point deficit at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
So.
I mean, 28 in a row. And, I just think that, I did want to touch on this comment I just saw come across. Cam was trying to make something happen because he knows the offensive play calling is heartless. As much as I don't want to believe that, at the same time, I mean, sometimes it does look heartless. It's the combination of that, and then I think sometimes you just get Martinez, like, it looks like he's thinking so much in the pocket when he just needs to make a decision and go, because look what he did late in that game. He had the crossers coming in. He looked first, second, and then he took off 75-yard touchdown because he decided not to sit in the pocket, and he has that ability. But when he doesn't use it, that's when it looks heartless, because it looks like he's standing back there with no clue. The running game couldn't get going. I think that the combination of Irvin and Step, I thought it was a good – I think Irvin looked pretty quick, and I think that that's why they wanted to get him some touches, and then Step more of a power back. So I like the little combination of those two, but I don't know why Ramir Johnson's in late if those are the guys you're hyping up to be the guys, and you have a 2 or 3 man show a running back. Why is he in the game when it comes down and it's a big time in the game? I don't get it.
I totally agree with that. I had no idea why nothing against the kid, but I didn't even know Ramir Johnson was in the top 5. I thought maybe even Marvin Scott was ahead of him. So, I mean, in a clutch point in the game, I'm not sure what's going on there, other than the fact of maybe he's the quickest one and they're trying to get him in space. I mean, they were running him up the middle. To that comment's point, though, too, it just seems like there's not much in the bucket of tricks. Sometimes it's kind of just let's try this and hope for the best. And I thought the offensive line did a decent job of pass protecting today, but it didn't seem, I don't know how you felt about it, but it didn't seem like they had much push in the run game. They didn't have much.
No, it seemed like they didn't have push in the run game. And it seemed like on the other side, the defense was getting a push at the beginning, and that D-line looked really, really good. But I think as the game wore on, maybe the defense just felt more disheartened, and it seemed like they weren't getting that push. But at first, they looked really good for almost 3 quarters. And then, that long drive kind of beat them up. And then after that, they really weren't making enough plays to, get those stops. So, I mean, But I didn't think the run blocking was good at all. They got no push, maybe a yard. Sometimes it was even, and the running back's just running right into the back of his lineman because there's nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah. There was really no, I don't know, between the tackles, our longest run between the tackles had to be maybe 5 or 6 yards. Um, so there was just nothing really there for the offensive line to hang their hat on at the end of the day in the run game. And then I also agree the defensive line, they looked great. I mean, they were creating pressure. Caleb Tanner and Garrett Nelson were pummeling people, and it was fun. It was really fun to watch. And then obviously you're going to get tired if you're out there that long. They were doubling our time of possession, and yeah, it's got to be mentally weighing on you too when you see your offense out there sputtering, and you know that you're going to have to keep doing this. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that I'd probably say the exact same thing. You don't want to say that a team should get tired, but it's also game one. You're not in the total game shape you should be in yet. And I kind of sense that because guys like Daniels and Payne, Nelson, guys you mentioned, they were all over the place. Even with the lack of, I didn't think the linebacker play was great by any means from Heinrich and Reimer. I thought it was inconsistent, but that D line made that linebacker play look really good for a while in that game because they were just dominating. Thought they were playing a little bit too far off in coverage, and they came up, and that's when it was only little chunks. It really wasn't much in the past game. I mean, the defense overall, I think they played really good. They just got beat. I think that drive coming out of half really hurt a lot, and it was just because they started involving that jet sweep, that Bielema ball, where he's just controlling the ball, getting his little chunks, and getting enough for a first down.
Right. I mean, that's happened to us so many times when we play a team. A good team like a Wisconsin or a Northwestern in the past couple of years, or Iowa, where they melt that clock, and then you're down 2 possessions, and the pressure is completely on you to go score, because of what they just did. I mean, that was an 8 minute drive, and it was definitely well created. And I mean, Nebraska didn't necessarily defend terribly, I didn't think, on that drive, but Illinois made good adjustments and exploited some of the things that Nebraska was lacking on. And yeah, it was really tough to go down those scores like that coming out of half. I thought too, the linebackers, like you said, I don't know if it wasn't terrible, but it was kind of inconsistent. Where I think we've been kind of used to Will Honus kind of figuring it out for us in there, and I guess those young guys are gonna have a little bit more learning to do, I guess, in there.
Yeah, and when I look back on this game, and a lot of people are throwing blame at Martinez, people are throwing blame at no lack of running game. I always look back at these games, and I hate to be the guy that blames it on coaches, but I just thought they were totally unprepared, and I think the special team shows it. I think the lack of conditioning at that drive late in the game for the Huskers that got them back to 8. Why, with 10 minutes left, are we running a 7.5 minute drive? Like, it should be a 4-minute offense. You have to be pushing the ball downfield because then you put your defense in they can't get one first down or the game's over. So I just didn't understand the lack of push. I mean, I thought that they were just Martinez sitting back there for 6 or 7 seconds throwing it away, and I'm like, why are we wasting this time? There was no hustle, and that's what really, I don't know, it kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth at the end of that game because I was already upset, but then I just didn't see the lack of hustle late in that game like they really wanted it. And I could be way off there. I could be way off, but I'm just saying I didn't see the hustle that I expect from a team that's trying to come back and, I wouldn't say save the season. It's game one, but just to get that first win in a huge season for Frost and the staff and the whole Husker program and Husker fan base.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, while they did go down there before and everything, it was, there wasn't that much sense. And then, I mean, we had the ball at the end. There was a minute left, but I think we threw 4 incomplete passes in a row to end the game. I understand that they're in max prevent, but do as far as from a coaching standpoint, in this, have we not worked on this circumstance? Down 1 score, under a minute, have we not worked on that? Because I mean, we just looked clueless out there. It looked like it was pick up football at the park, and we just said go, and everyone was running around. There was just nothing there.
Yeah, and that's what, you know, that's the frustrating thing, because if they're playing prevent and they're all back there making sure nothing's behind them, there's 10-yard plays there to at least get a Hail Mary up. Has to be.
Right. Yeah, throw it under. I mean, how many times has that happened to us, though? Where I can think back to the Iowa game, I believe it was, where, they had like 45 seconds, and it was underpass, out 10 yards, out of bounds, out 5 yards, out of bounds. And you gave yourself a chance. I mean, there was zero chance. So, I mean, at some point, you got to look at who's preparing them, and then who is orchestrating what's going on right in front of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree. Here's a good comment. We actually haven't hit on it too much yet. Caleb Tanner's roughing the passer penalty. What were your thoughts, watching the replay, watching the entire thing on that play?
You want to go first?
You got it.
Okay. I mean, I didn't like it. I thought it kind of took I thought the refs kind of took the Nebraska's momentum away. It kind of took it in their own hands. I think it was a flag that could have been called. I don't think it was necessarily an atrocious call, because I mean, he had great form all the way up until just the very last second, when he kind of I don't even know how to say it. He kind of drove his face mask into his chest there at the very end. But at the same, that's a guy making a play on the quarterback where he doesn't know if the ball is out or not, and he's trying to bring him to the ground. I think it's something where you could have let it go, take the kid aside, and say, "Hey, if you do this again, this is happening." I just didn't like how it took the game into their hands.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate the whole roughing the passer thing right now, and I think there's a little bit too much protection. But the only thing I noticed was that he lifted him off the ground a bit, and then, like you said, he put his helmet right into his chest and just drove it, basically trying to drive him through the ground. And they've made an emphasis on that in college football and in the NFL, so it's going to be called. Whether I agree with it is a different story. It's going to be called, and it had to be. But, I kind of see your point. I think that's good refereeing when you can do that. You can be like, hey, don't do this again. I'm going to tell you what you did wrong, because you're trying to teach people how to play the game safe. And, all these penalties that can change games, seasons, But, yeah, I didn't think it was a roughing the passer. I thought it was a clean play, but that's where they got him. The little lift off the ground and trying to drive him into the ground is what they've made an emphasis on. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's another comment talking about Martinez. We've both hit on this. I think we both know it. He was throwing off his back foot a lot. And we mentioned it's because he was taking too much time back there. It's hard to step into your throws when your lineman's in your face because you're taking 6 seconds. I'm not blaming the line. I'm blaming the quarterback for holding on to it too long and not realizing that he's one of the better runners in college football. He really is.
Yeah, he definitely is. Those first couple steps that he had on that 70-yard run, I mean, he looked explosive. I mean, why not use that? And why not make teams respect that, right? Because if you make teams respect that, that's only going to help you in the pass game. But as far as Martinez throwing motion and stuff, I think it just goes back to his decisiveness too. Sometimes he seems more comfortable just making like a crazy, like Patrick Mahomes attempted throw, like in the pocket, where maybe this guy's maybe it's only going to be a 5 or 6 yard pass, but hey, just hit him right away and move on. I wonder if he's back there kind of just looking for the home run every time. And I don't know if that's the quarterback coaching, or if they're telling him, hey, these two guys are your priority on this, and you need to look for them. I'm not sure what it is, but his decisiveness and then his lack of decisiveness, I think, is leading to some of those poor throwing mechanics that we've seen.
Yeah, and, we touched on it. It looked a lot like last year. It really did. He just didn't look comfortable in there. And if he did look comfortable and looked relaxed, it did seem like maybe he's trying to make an emphasis to push the ball downfield because he was heavily criticized for that from a year ago. So that's possible. But at the same time, you have to make your reads, and whatever's there is there. And if you're throwing off your back foot all the time, like that throw he had to Oliver Martin earlier in the game for 45 yards, he did not step into that, and he got lucky that he put it right there. Like, that's a 1 out of 10 times you can do that with the way his mechanics were. So his mechanics are off, and it's because he's taking too much time. I don't want to blame the O-line. I think they could have done better run blocking. Pass blocking wise, we said it. They did fine. They gave Martinez the time you need in this offense as a dual threat quarterback.
Right. I agree with that. And I think Martinez finished the game with decent stats, but obviously that's because of those last two drives where, the defense is back and some guys are more open. But as far as the first half goes, I don't know if he had more than 5 completions in the first half. I mean, the first half was terrible. Missing guys and, not being able to move the ball. And just sometimes I don't know, sometimes they make a great play, and it'll be a first down, and then there's just kind of nothing. And we go backwards and then we punt. So yeah, the offense was overall just a really big letdown.
Yeah, another comment right here. I mean, I'm with you, Kyle. I hate to be that guy. I actually really like, Adrian Martinez. I hear him speak to the media. He has his podcast now. It's all awesome. But I kind of do question it at times too. I saw a couple zone reads near the goal line where, I don't know if it was a designed run, but he hands it into the running back. He just gets smashed right at the goal line, right at the line of scrimmage, no yards. And he was wide open to walk in. So, even if you're a quarterback and you see that, you just pull it out and walk it in. I mean, and so I question it sometimes too in the running and passing game. And I feel like sometimes he looks fine. They had a couple good plays drawing up with the Marquis Step slipping out. Nice throw there. Nice play overall. So that's why I thought the designs of the play were better. But I don't know what progression thing is going through his head. I really don't. And it makes me question him a little bit as a quarterback, but I wish I knew. I think that's what all Husker fans are saying. Why does he keep doing the same things? I don't know if he's the answer, but it's definitely concerning to start out the year like this.
Yeah, I agree with you on the some of the RPO stuff where he's. I mean, is that predetermined in his mind that he sees maybe one backer or kind of opening there, and he's just gonna hand it off to him regardless. I don't know, because to your point, I mean, really sell that fake and boot out, and I think he, like you said, walks in. And I thought there were a couple more other chances this game where he could have maybe had the edge on a couple. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to think. It's definitely concerning to see, a former quarterback in Scott Frost and Verduzco. These guys are supposed to be really, really good at molding these quarterbacks, and it's concerning to see a guy that, I mean, he looks the same now as his freshman year. I mean, he's got more experience. He's definitely more calm in the pocket, but it's almost too calm at times where he's I got 6 or 7 seconds. You don't. This isn't practice where you got the red jersey, or I guess it wouldn't be a red jersey, the green jersey on. You're going to get hit out there, and people are smacking for that ball all the time, and you have to be able to go through your progressions and go, I'm running. Even if you run into a guy and only get 3 yards, at least it's better than dealing with potential for fumbles. The amount of sacks, Martinez should never take 5 sacks in a game with how athletic he is. Never.
Wow, yeah, I realized he took 5 sacks, and it wasn't even, some of them were 10, 12, 15-yard losses too. But I agree. I'm not a quarterback expert by any means, but I do watch a lot of football, and you see the good quarterbacks with they're in the pocket. Their feet are usually always moving until they throw the ball. Obviously, their head's moving and their shoulders are moving. But sometimes Martinez is back there and he's he's just flat-footed and he's staring in one direction, and then you're just kind of holding your breath at that point that hopefully the guy he's looking at is open. And then when the ball goes in there, it's kind of just, man, where's this going? Um, so I don't know. And then I was just going to kind of go into what you think about um, Martinez. Is he the guy this year, no matter what? Like, no matter how bad he is, is he going to just be the guy the entire year? What do you think?
You know, I would like to say like he's got to keep his position and he has to play up to it, because I think if you see games like this and outcomes like this, all of Husker Nation and everybody would want to see a different quarterback, because you want to see if this is a scheme thing or if this is a Martinez thing. What is the issue? Is the scheme too complex where he has to make 4 or 5 different reads? And I wouldn't believe it is, because look at what they did at UCF. Frost, what he's done his entire career as an offensive guy, he's had success. So is it the quarterback? And I think that's what a lot of people will wonder. You have to trust the coaching staff's ability to evaluate talent in practice, right? But it's also, I know I've heard this from multiple fans, like that's his boy. That's Frost's boy right there, is Adrian Martinez. That was the first guy he brought in, his quarterback. He's been his guy for years. So It's hard to see him pass up on that and go to somebody else. But if you keep seeing this, I don't see why you wouldn't.
I agree. That's kind of where I stand. I don't think that Martinez would not start a game for at least another 3 or 4 games. To be honest with you, I think he could continue to struggle like this, and they're going to probably ride it out for a good amount of time. But I mean, at some point, if you're 1-4 or you're 1-5, I mean, God forbid. I mean, but at that point, then I guess you got to give somebody else a shot and just see what they have and see if this is truly, like you said, a scheme problem or a quarterback problem. So, I mean, that's kind of where I stand with it too. I don't see Martinez going anywhere for the next few games, though. I do believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely agree. Here's another comment in here. Any bright spots that you thought? What were a couple bright spots from this game for the Huskers overall? Even in the second half when the game got tough, what do you think?
Just kind of like I said earlier, I thought Oliver Martin played a great game. I thought he made a couple really great catches, specifically that one that was really contested that he held on to going down to the ground. The one in the end zone with the that was him that caught the touchdown, I believe, on the fingertips. So I thought Oliver Martin, and then I guess the first half of the game, like we were talking about, the D line and the pass rush, I thought that was great. I thought that was really fun. That was watching the pass rush was probably the most enjoyable, 20, 30 minutes that I had of the 4 hours that I sat and watched the game this morning.
Yeah, and that D line was the one thing, I've been reading all this. The Huskers are stronger, they're bigger, they're physically ready now. That's what they've been doing all offseason. And watching that D line, it gave me that impression. I was like, okay, these guys are more ready than they've been in the past. Like, this D-line is getting after it. They were animals at the beginning of the game. I think they got a little bit tired as the game went on. But I think the linebacker position is still going to be in question because they're so young without Honus. And the secondary, I thought they played a little bit lax sometimes, not bringing the safety down in the box when Illinois was just running, or not playing up far enough in coverage, because you saw it from Illinois at the beginning of the game. They were putting their DBs 6-8 yards at the most. They were up on them, basically saying, beat us deep. They finally tried a few deep ones. It didn't really change much because I think Nebraska's whole offense was just thrown off because Martinez was sitting there for so long. But I think that defense, if they get up and challenge receivers and they fire like they did in that first half against the run, the defense is going to be fine all year. I believe in the defense. It's just concerning because if the offense puts you on the field for 40 minutes of a game, that's tough. That's real tough.
I agree. I mean, I talked about this like a lot last year too. I thought the defense played well enough to win the game, and they did that a lot last year too. I thought they played well enough to win the game, but just the the mistakes of special teams and the offense just not being able to do anything. Um, you know, that led to obviously ultimately the outcome of it. But like you said, I thought the defense played a great game in most aspects.
Yeah, here's another comment talking about the D line. What do you think of that question right there? Can this D line, if they play like they did, do they hold up against the Big Ten teams, or does it matter based on what we said? You know, if they're on the field for too long, will it really matter at all?
Yeah, I don't. I think that if it looked like today, that it's not going to really matter. But if you give them maybe a little bit of rest and you let them get a little bit more experience under their belt, I think that our D line can hold up in conference play, but it's definitely going to take a lot more from both sides from the offense to help them out a little bit. So
Yeah, and I think it comes from you have to establish that run game. That was extremely disappointing today. If you establish that like Illinois did, like you chew off time, your defense gets that rest, they come out there fiery again. And it seemed like in the second half, I mean, that 8-minute drive definitely wore them out, but then you don't get anything after for the Huskers, and then the defense is back on the field. It just wears on you. I mean, no matter how good you are conditioned, because Nebraska doesn't have Alabama level of depth with 6 or 7 guys on the D line that they're really comfortable with being that good. Maybe they're 4 or 5 deep, and maybe that's it. With guys that they're comfortable can make big time plays, that's fine as long as you can keep them, not on the field for 42 minutes a game. Because guys look tired at the end of that game, and the offense, I don't get why they seem so tired late in that game on that big drive. I mean, that drive shouldn't have taken 7 minutes. It upset me when I saw that on the screen. I was like, that took 7.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Like, that's something Illinois should be doing to you, not you doing as the team that's losing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, as it sat, I mean, they were still in the game. I mean, after all of that, man, they only lost by 1 score. And I saw today that that was Nebraska. I think Nebraska's tied for 1 score losses since the year 2018, I believe, with 13 1-score losses. And that's just getting it done. I believe a lot of that's coaching. It's not getting it done. It's not knowing your personnel, knowing your go-tos, and managing the clock sometimes too. That's just an incredible stat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. I thought I'd come on here with some answers, but the more I think about this game, I'm like, I just really don't know. Because it's just so much like last year. There's some positives, but man, when you lose the first game to Illinois in a big year for the Huskers, it's hard to figure out. Here's a question, Sam, again. How hot is Frost's seat from 1 to 10? What do you think right now? I hate to be this guy, after one game, but what do you think it is right now? Do you think that adds, to the pressure this program faces right now?
There was so much weight on this game, right? I mean, many considered this. I considered it the biggest game of Frost's tenure. I think. I don't think his seat is hot as of today. It's not. I think if you ask me the same question halfway through the season, depending on how things are going, I might have a different answer. When people bring this up, I always kind of come back to, as terrible as this sounds, I think that Frost could win 4 games this year and still be here. I mean, that would be terrible. That would be extremely disappointing. But I do think that the only way he's not here this year is if he wins 3 or less.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably agree. And it is terrible to hear because you want to think about, the potential of what you can get, but it's also hard to reset a program and get a new staff because then you're going back to year 1 again. And it's not easy from year 1. Yeah, people can say Bielema He won first game year one. I mean, who knows what Bielema's going to do the rest of the season? Illinois could be a 2-10 team. They could be a 3-9 team. All right, they don't have a ton yet. Bielema's got to build them up, but it's just hard to build a program, from where Nebraska has been today. I think it's harder today than it was years ago. I do think that there was a couple of improvements, but there's just some things that you think would change over time, and they really didn't. And I'd agree with you on the hot seat thing too. I don't think it is yet. After one game in the season, it's very hard to say it is, because then he shouldn't have been here from the start of the season if it's already hot after one game. So I don't think it is yet, but man, if you keep seeing bad special teams and just the same errors year 4, like these are your guys that you recruited. This should be your team, and you should have control of them. And if you don't show any of that, it's just a lack of coaching, and that's when you have to move on, when it's a lack of coaching.
It's just so frustrating. I'm just sitting in the game. I'm sitting watching the game today, and I thought the defense played well, right? But I see their backup quarterback, who lost the job to Bedroll. I see their backup quarterback throwing a 40-yard bomb down the sideline to their other quarterback who converted to wide receiver, who's never played wide receiver before. And then I just see our 4-year starter, four-year starter Martinez not figuring it out again. And I think for many Husker fans, that's just extremely frustrating watching that unfold.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You just it is kind of weird to see that. Like Satowski was a guy who couldn't beat out Vedral, and Vedral was a guy who couldn't win the job at Nebraska. But and it's weird to look at that chain, but it also makes you wonder, how hard is it going to be for Frost to make a move on Martinez? We just mentioned it. How hard will it be for him to move on? Because I don't think he wants to. We all know he doesn't. This was the guy he recruited to play quarterback, but you also don't want to move on from a quarterback after one game. But it's just so frustrating seeing the same things over and over. Right. That's what it is for Husker fans right now. That's what all the comments really have been, is it's super frustrating to see the same thing. It is.
But and now at this point though, Martinez is it's still his show. I mean, and nothing against him. I think Martinez is a great kid. I think he truly loves Nebraska. And he truly wants to be here, and he wants to win. And I feel so bad for him when I see him fumble and he's on the sideline. It's really hard to see. But I mean, at the same time, it's just, behind him at this point, now you have zero experience, right? You have zero. So at this point, it's going to take a good amount of bad quarterback play to even give yourself a switch up. I was kind of a proponent of maybe looking at a transfer quarterback. I really like McKenzie Milton, but I don't think they ever explored the idea of bringing somebody else in here that would push for even that starting position or the second position. So now it's kind of ride Martinez until the wheels completely fall off. They kind of already haven't.
Yeah, I know some people, when the whole Milton thing was out there, they were pushing that it would ruin the team chemistry, cause issues in the locker room. I saw it as an opportunity to get competition in there, make people better, not be satisfied with something, like a 5-7 season or a 6-6, let's get ourselves somewhere. And I thought the competition would have been good for Martinez. They didn't do it. We'll see how Milton does at Florida State. I'm actually extremely interested to see that. He looks good in what everyone's saying, but it's just tough to see the same thing. And, until changes are made, I think a lot of Husker fans are going to call for a change, but you just don't have the experience behind, and it's tough to just throw a guy into the fire. But who knows at this point? If you're losing games like that to Illinois, might as well throw people in the fire. But that's the one thing that I thought Martinez was going to do better, because he did say, before the year, he's just going to let it loose this year. Well, you sat back in the pocket for probably a dozen times for 6 seconds or more. Like, let it loose. Take the chance downfield to Omar Manning when he's got that guy one-on-one. Who knows what he's going to do? Or Toure. Because I think Oliver Martin and Toure both impressed me. I mean, they combined for probably, I think it was 170 receiving yards and 10 catches. Like, they were impressive. And we have other weapons like Manning, like Betts, like Allen. So the weapons are there. I think it just has to deal with progressions and making those reads. And I don't know. It's tough to not see that year 4, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But looking through the comments, appreciate everybody that is tuned in. Up to 194 people watching this right now. This is true. I had to put it on there. He did get out coached today. I thought Bielema and that staff did a good job. They had their plan. And right when you thought the Huskers were playing good defense, and right when we thought second half was coming out, like the Huskers are going to do fine against that offense. They've got it figured out. They're just running up the middle, jet sweeps. And you saw the former quarterback, Isaiah Williams, get involved. Absolute speedster, great athlete. And he started making plays, and then it just blew up the middle too. So everything was kind of thrown off by the second half adjustment. And I felt like the Huskers, like last year, struggle with those halftime adjustments under Frost.
Well, and they don't make adjustments until their back is completely against the wall. It's the fourth quarter and there's 9 minutes down. And I mean, now we have to go for it, right? I mean, so why not come out and just go for it in the first quarter? Why not just come out and go for it? Sometimes I think they're so scripted. Maybe even like the first, second, third series are scripted plays. And no matter what's going on, that's what we're going to run. Sometimes it would just be nice if they just kind of went for it early on in the game.
Yeah, and I guess, looking at the time, we're going to start to wrap up the show here. I did want to ask you one more question. I think this is a good one for the people watching. Next week, Nebraska's got Fordham. Obviously, a game that you can't lose to Fordham. But what are the realistic expectations for that game, considering what happened today?
Yeah, dude. It's so hard to think about Fordham because obviously you're going to beat Fordham. And if you don't beat Fordham, then, okay, then it's over, right? But you're going to beat Fordham. But at the same time, it's just like, man, that's really not going to do anything because of what happened today. It's just, and you're going to have to come out and just absolutely assert yourself next week and run them over. I mean, and make a massive statement. It's not going to do much for what happened today, but I really hope that they're mad and they play with some fire. And I guess that's the best you can hope for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there is nothing you can do in that Fordham game to fix what happened today, but you just have to go get better. Hopefully the team can do that. I thought last couple of years there'd be some fire when they lost some games they weren't supposed to, so we'll see if this year is any different. Don't forget, as we wrap up the show here, right after the conclusion of the UCLA-Hawaii game, the voice of college football that everybody watches it for, Mark Rogers, will be on here talking about the day of college football that we've had. Fresno State blowing out UConn. Didn't check the UCLA-Hawaii game. It was bad last time I checked. And then right after that live call-in show, the Iowa season preview from the Iowa experts on this channel. You'll see that on the Iowa channel and on the Big Ten channel. So we're going to wrap it up. Tough day for the Huskers. But as always, go Big Red. And we'll be on here every single time the Huskers finish up their game. So keep coming and sharing and commenting, and we'll try to get to you.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff today, Zach. So hopefully in better spirits next week.
Absolutely.